I always like to film Dawn's entrance to the stage, so we're just going to admit her into the meeting, and she should be coming in now.
Hello, Mark.
Good morning, Dawn. All okay?
Yes, thank you.
Episode 31. It's Thursday, the 23rd of April.
Oh, St George's Day.
All right. Oh, I should have done something for that, shouldn't I? Crikey. I'm being prepared for that. Prepared for lots of other things. I don't just cobble this together, to be honest. When you say, right, shall we get on and do this, you don't realise what I'm up to pull this together.
Oh, I do, dear. Don't you worry. I know how wonderful you are, really.
Right. So we're going to go. This is the intro music because people are getting into this now.
Okay, let's get on with the intro.
Yesterday was guest is a bit easier, a bit more modern, a bit more well known perhaps. It was Angie Crush got it, and as Hubert Bunce said, she crushed it. She was back in no time. Got Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars with Mark Ronson. But so I thought that was easy. So we'd go for something a little bit more obscure, perhaps a little bit older. And it's not the beginning of the track; it's in the middle. This will be quite tough, but I'll give a clue, which is it has some relevance to what we're doing now. You all right there?
Yeah.
Right, you ready? You listening?
Sleep. Did you get on with it?
Are you listening?
Yes.
All right.
No.
All right. Have you got any idea?
No.
That's good.
It sounded like a bunch of mice having a little squeak together.
Okay, that's a bit better than that. All right.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't.
Next section, I've been searching for my photo of Angie Crush, but I'll have to save that for another day because I can't find it for some reason. So
It is on your Facebook already.
all right, well, I'll do a little bit more research for Angie, but I'm going to go with another one of our viewers and share his photograph with us all. Okay, so here we go. There you go. That's Alan Buckle, who's been doing a fine job with plenty of feedback. Quite jealous of Alan. He's still able to run around and compete as an over 60 athlete, although he doesn't go into nightclubs. So, as he was saying, so, yeah, he's thanks to Alan for all his feedback over the last few episodes. Everyone,
Excuse me.
yeah, everyone was. A few people were complimenting you on your summary look yesterday.
Yeah, I've gone back to my
Yeah.
t-shirt, plain t-shirt. Sorry, I've got my shorts on though.
No, I won't ask to see that.
No, don't ask to see that.
Steve Fury, he kicked it all off yesterday. Apologies to any non-athletics fans, but Steve he coaches at Medway and Maidstone, and he wanted ideas of races that would he could show to his squad. And so a few of us were all chipping in, and we had probably more feedback than we ever had before. So yeah, that was quite good. But I'm going to talk about something a bit later if I can get onto it, and that's women's sport, because it's quite difficult to come up with classic races on the women's side because it was so dominated by Eastern Europeans and others that have been tainted by drugs over the years. But come on to that later because there's another bit of feedback. Alan Buckle, who I've mentioned already, he was just pointing out he's an Ovet fan because the big rivalry was Cohen Ovet, and that's Alan went on that side. Hubert came up with this story of him doing a triathlon. You know, we were talking about what were we talking about? Some embarrassing things.
Oh, embarrassing situations, weren't we? In sport, weren't we?
Yeah.
Really? But
Yeah. Well, he was doing a triathlon and entered the transition phase between the swimming and the bike, and was frustrated at how slow his transition was going. So he dropped his towel as he was changing his shorts for the bike, and he was warned by an official. So he said there was no kids present, so it was okay. But I just seem to, I've never seen anybody have a towel at a transition in a triathlon. So
it's because they don't like change now. I don't know whether it's something they did in a different country or something like that. They literally have a swimsuit. They like get on they put their shoes on, and they start cycling these days. They don't like they don't change, do they? So we're not too sure what went on there anyway. Maybe it was a few years ago and they refined it, who knows.
Maybe Hubert doesn't look good in lycra or something, and he had to get out and change. Anyway,
we're not going to go there.
No. And then Scott Shermer came back. You remember I was talking about Neil Black, who passed away at the age of 60, and I'd written an email and he took the time to reply.
Yeah.
Scott asked, he sent a message to Joe Pavey once, the international distance runner, asking about his training, and wasn't expecting any sort of response, and she replied. And I thought that was a good example. And if we've got time, I'll get onto another section later. If not today, then another day, about any nice celebrities that you've come across who have, really, really impressed you with their down-to-earth way. So that's one thing for yesterday. We asked you yesterday, on your walk, you were going to do a little check of how many people you said hello to and how many replied. What was the response?
I think I might met about 10, 12 people, and only 2 of them didn't say anything as they walked past or avoided me. So in that respect, and most of them stood and had a little chat, etc. Yeah, it was good. And I went for a slightly longer walk with Oscar. So and I was sort of like keeping my fingers crossed as I was walking round that he would make it all right. He did struggle a little bit on the way back, but he didn't have to sit down and rest. So that was quite good. That was quite encouraging. It was a slow plod though.
Yeah. So a good percentage though said hello to you, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was very high, and they weren't just like, "Oh, good morning." They were just saying, "Oh, how are you?" etc., etc. So it was pretty good, and I think most people around this area quite good at sort of chatting, etc. I did meet one lady who was chatting to another lady who I know quite well, and I said to her, "Oh, hello, are you all right?" But I could hear the conversation as I was getting closer, and the lady was checking to make sure she'd got help and people were doing her shopping and everything. But she wanted to get out and have a little walk, and she was slower than Oscar, so that was a walk. Bless her.
Right, so which do you want to go for, women's sport or celebrities?
Well, celebrities is sort of like more at my point, because I think women's sport's quite involved, and there are quite a few people that I remember, and I just think it's just a big. The trouble is, you'll know who's been caught for drugs, and I won't, sort of thing, because I just remember the performance rather than all the follow up, etc.
You liked FloJo, didn't you? Because of her fingernails.
I did. It was like she was very glamorous, and I think she set the way of being sort of like really sort of like she was playing to the cameras, and then of course being caught for the drugs, etc. It's a big disappointment, isn't it, really? But I mean,
you've got onto the women's sport now, so you better go with it. Go on.
Okay. I mean, I do admire Jo Pavey, for instance. I mean, she was always. I mean, you've got your favourites, and I must admit, some of the distance runners. But I mean, I remember the sprinters. I'm trying to think of all their blooming names. I can think of their first names, but not necessarily their surnames. And I just think that there are quite a few. But Mary Rand stands out for me. I was only about 6 when she won her gold medal, but through having got involved in athletics, she was one of the first ones I think she was the first one to win a gold medal for a GB woman in long jump. So I might be wrong, but I mean, in a sense, it's people like that that if you look back and see what they've achieved, etc. And she wasn't caught for drugs either, so in a sense, it's difficult to choose somebody, isn't it? I mean, I love sprinting, so you know, people that are, but most of them, as you say, have been caught.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I racked my brains, and over my life, which ones really stood out? And I'm talking about general sports. I had like Olga Korbut in the Olympic
Hmm.
gymnastics. I had Kathy Freeman winning the 400 meters at the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah, remember that? I was crying. I was so happy for her.
The pressure she would have been under, being a native Aborigine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Becky Adlington setting the world record in the 800 meters, winning the Olympics.
Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah.
Something more recently, I did love the Boston Marathon a couple of years ago when Desi Linden won the women's race and Kawauchi won the men's, and it was freezing cold and wet weather. And I watched, probably the last time I watched a whole marathon, the only time I watched a whole marathon, and that was quite a classic. But I'm really struggling to think. You know, we came up with loads of men's races. I chipped in with Liz McColgan winning the World Championships 10,000
Mm.
in Tokyo in '91, because I've been out to Japan that time of the year, and it is baking hot, and that was sheer guts. But it's quite difficult to you know, you've got when really good women win, they normally dominate, people like Serena Williams, etc. So it's difficult to remember those classic matches as much as some of the odd men's matches.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, it is difficult, but I mean, I think you sort of like Kelly Holmes when she won her the second, I think it was her second goal, when she didn't know whether she won it or not, etc. That was such a good race. But I mean, it's now sort of like, it's getting a bit silly in some respects with everything else. And I just think it's all governed by money as opposed to actually performance, and I just think sometimes that's wrong. But then if that's bringing the crowds in and developing the sport, you can understand the reasoning about it, but you're not sure, are you really? And I think women are now better in sports than they've ever been because they feel they can do them. Whereas a few years ago, certainly when I was younger, it was like you did it at school and then you weren't expected to be like a cricketer or a footballer or anything like that. And so it has developed. I mean, there's women's teams now, not that you like women's football, but at the end of the day, we've got cricket and they're playing it at a higher level and each country is doing that. So I think there's more opportunities for women now than there's ever been. So maybe in a few years' time, we'll be talking about all these wonderful women's performances, as long as they're not taking drugs. So I don't know.
And personally, I seem to remember you doing, was it a 4x1 relay at Erith or something?
For actually running it,
Yeah.
it was at Tunbridge. We did an officials team of 4x1.
Oh, okay. Who was in your team? Do you remember?
Yes, there was Peter. I can't remember the other two. Anyway, we got together and we said we'd do it. So I was on the second leg. And the thing is with sports, no matter where you are, and you're supposed to be doing this for fun, you get nervous. It's ridiculous. You think, oh God, am I going to drop the baton? I'm going to run. And you're actually turning around to look. You're not supposed to do that. And I'm thinking, it's supposed to be a bit of fun. Anyway, yes, you're right. I did do a 4x1 many years ago.
Well, I think that's it. Not a classic today, but we're putting the test out to some viewers, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of women's sport, and also anticipating a discussion perhaps tomorrow about any personalities, celebrities people have come across. You want
I've got one little story. I don't know, I was doing something with, I can't remember what it was for actually, and I met David Morkov. Well, you know, you couldn't meet such a nice person. He really did make you feel comfortable, and you know, all his sporting achievements, etc. And I was just thinking, he's very down to earth and very approachable, and I think that's a good thing. And I think perhaps a few more of the people who have been in athletics had help, perhaps should turn it around and perhaps help some of the other people that are coming through, etc. And spend just, even if they just spend half an hour having a little chat with them about their experiences, etc., that would help as well. Anyway, shall I leave on that note?
You just reminded me that, because really and truthfully, we should have picked that out as one of the great races that we put out. Dave Moorcroft's World 5,000 metres.
Yeah, I mean,
the world record, and he led by for I think all but about a couple of laps. He led it all the way, and I think when the story goes, when he went back to the after party, all the other athletes stood up and gave him a round of applause. And bearing in mind they're all world-class athletes, it was quite something.
Well, I do think that when you run something and you're front running it, I mean, people are in awe of it, especially if you don't die at the end, at the last 100 metres or something, because that is very difficult to do, isn't it? Let's be honest about it.
It must be up there with one of the best performances ever by a British athlete or distance runner, certainly. So anyway, thank you very much for that little reminder. We'll be back on Celebrities tomorrow with
yeah. Oh my goodness. See you later then. Bye.
Bye.